Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of heart conditions, fatherhood, writing a book about Texas cocktails, working at the University of Texas, and so much more. Today's guest is the brilliant and esteemed Nico Martini. No finer name to have for a man who enjoys a fine cocktail now and then. We talk about his new book, Texas Cocktails, of which he's so brilliantly and so generously included a bit on Show to Be, and some other amazing things going on in the Texas cocktail scene, both at the distillery/production level and the composition/cocktail level. We talk about a strange fate with heart conditions. We talk about Bar Draught, a great project, Hypeworthy, and so much more. It was great to finally get Nico on the show since he had a podcast for a bit. The hunted becomes the hunter. Is that how I say it? You've used this term plenty of times, but without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Nico Martini.
I mean, I don't know. I guess to be honest, I'm more comfortable leading the conversation down the path that I would like to go down.
Of course.
But, yeah, it's funny because of the book. I've done a couple of radio things. I'm doing another radio thing in Houston here in a couple of weeks, and every single time I do one of those, they're like, "Did you used to do radio?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." It's pretty obvious, but yeah.
Well, you get the voice for it too. It's terrible that you're writing, given that you've got this voice.
I know. Gosh, there's so much more money in podcasting. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, I mean marginally, especially given that you made hundreds of dollars.
I made dozens of dollars writing this book.
Well, it's a thankless form either way, being a writer or being a podcast host. But
well, I mean, I feel like you do this podcast for the same reason I wrote this book. Yeah, honestly,
I'm about journeys. You're saying kind of the same thing, understanding the narrative.
It was a journey, and it was capturing what is happening right now, and kind of giving it some sort of preservation, so that years from now you can at least look back and go, "Cool, yeah." In the summer to winter of 2017, this is what Texas spirits were. Yeah. This is what Texas bars were. This is what Texas cocktails were.
An absolute snapshot. You know what's interesting about the long form mediums like podcasts, at least what I've tried to do anyway with people, and what you're doing with the book. The minutia is what's actually lost over time. Technology, you would think, would give us a better ability to capture the history of these things that are just happening right before us, but in fact, it loses things because all the gray area in between. Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing that people are just capturing really these totally perfunctory snapshots of stuff?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's always historically been the way that it happens. I don't think it's necessarily technology. I mean, sure. There's some journals from the ancient Greeks that kind of give you a general sense of what they were actually like. Yeah. But most of them is most of the stuff that survived were, this is what we believed about this. This is what this is. This is what that is, and it's very matter of fact,
succinct and done. Yeah.
As far as I mean, honestly, I think that the invention of the cinema is the thing that's going to give people 400 years from now, we can actually have a glimpse of who they were instead of what they did.
No, it's a good point. I think that changed a whole lot of it. 1927, the first sound film. You know what I mean? So. Media is interesting. I know you're deeply interested in media. You've worked in multiple facets of it, whether it's presenting with TED Talks, doing Bar Draught stuff. So the thing, though, for me, which is been difficult, is what the hell did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, God, man.
Because you went down all these different paths.
Dude, okay. So I
Fort Worth, right? Fort Worth?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Born and raised in Fort Worth. Raised in a suburb of Fort Worth called HEB.
Yeah,
yeah, HEB, man. It's fun. I've got a buddy Mark who likes to refer to whenever I do something like even remotely attitudinal or ghetto or something. He's like, "Oh, look, it's Mid City's Nico. Here we go." Like, all right, bud. Yeah. So, man, when I started, like, I wanted to do theater. Like, I was a theater guy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was a theater guy. And so, like, even to the point that when I got out of college, or when I got out of high school, I had a couple of scholarship opportunities, but it was like SFA, or it was Southeastern Oklahoma State. Right. And it's like, but I don't know if I really want to put my theater future in the hands of those in Nacogdoches, with all due respect to Nacogdoches.
No, fair.
It's just not.
Their lens is not as wide as it would be in New York City,
not even in Dallas. Sure. So, and so, but there was a college up there called Collin County Community College. They had literally just won the American College Theater Festival. And so they were, the year before I enrolled, they were named the top collegiate theater in the nation, and they were a community college.
Interesting.
And the director, head of the program, he saw me at an audition, and basically he said, "Hey, I'll pay you to come.
Cool.
I'll give you your full ride. I will help out with your housing. I will give you books, and I'll give you a job in the shop. And you can just." And he's like, "Dude, just come. Come for 2 years.
Yeah.
Get all your basics out of the way. You save a whole bunch of money, and at that point, I'll help you transfer to wherever the hell you want to transfer to."
Yeah, just like, give me the 2 years, and then we'll see where it goes.
I was like, dude, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, a little minor league, but really, really good minor league team. So yeah,
starting in a big indie.
Yeah,
right. So,
exactly.
As an actor, though, what kind of genre were you, or comedic actor, drama?
Mostly comedic. I mean, that's the one that's. I do have an acting award. I was nominated for a Best Actor in a performance of the Scottish play. I can say Macbeth because we're not in theater. That's right, yeah. But yeah, there's this tiny little role called the Porter, and basically it's like the 3 to 4 minute comedic speech in the middle of Macbeth that's only there to basically add a little bit of levity.
Yeah, right.
And
palate cleanser.
I guess I nailed it because, like, I got a nomination and Lady Macbeth didn't, and it was all based on this 3-minute funny speech where I'm talking to my shoes, and so yeah, it was.
So comedic actors, of course, I'm always going to dive into cinema with folks, especially actors. Who, when you think of actresses, actors, who are some that maybe were influential, some that you looked up to and thought were doing a really good job in there?
Genre. Oh man, I think it's for me, my two favorite actors, and the second one pains me now. It's Robin Williams, and Kevin Spacey. Yeah. Like, those are absolute, like, the performances that those guys have pulled off are some of the most spectacular things I've ever seen.
No, I completely agree.
And Kevin Spacey's funny. When he has a chance to do comedy, like, he's funny. I don't know if I'll have a chance to do anything now, but like, when he has a chance to do comedy, he's really, really funny. And vice versa with Robin Williams. Absolutely. Like, his best acting was like the drama, but he was so good at comedy.
Very, very diverse. They both are. It's interesting. So, given the situation with Kevin Spacey, I still can enjoy his work because art is art, and the person's the flawed fucking person that they are. Right? Yeah. So you have no problem distancing yourself from it.
I feel the same way. Yeah. I mean, now it's a little weird. It's like, hey, who's your favorite actor? Kevin Spacey. Okay. Whoa. What? I'm
not gonna go retroactively edit my shit just because this guy was
right.
I already who didn't know that he was a megalomaniac and that he was kind of weird.
Everybody knew he did that shit.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I'm not even. Like, through my theater folks and like the people that I know who actually do big things, I had heard that shit.
Yeah, dude.
And it's like what? I heard that 15 years ago.
My friend, one of my best friends, was his personal assistant in LA for years.
Gotcha.
And I didn't even take the insight of someone who spent all that time with him to know the dude's weird.
Right.
But great art comes from fucked up people.
Yeah,
Picasso,
absolutely.
Dali, I mean,
Van Gogh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm not surprised, and I hope that people can say, I can still enjoy things even though the people are flawed. Michael Jackson's the greatest example.
Absolutely.
Nothing's proven, right?
Yeah.
But there are these allegations. So it's very interesting. So you're pursuing this theater thing, which is a great thing, and many people in this bar industry do that same exact thing.
Yes, they do. Yes.
How are the folks feeling about it? Do they want you to go down a straightened path? Or this was good?
My mom was fine as long as I didn't become a teacher. that was all. She was like, just please don't, because she was a teacher.
She was a teacher. Okay.
Yeah, because my mom's a saint. She taught remedial reading in Northside Fort Worth for 25 years.
Oh, man.
In the 6th grade.
Jesus.
That
sounds grueling, man. I've never done it.
It's I don't know. She's an absolute saint. But basically she was. I mean, they were sort of. Whatever. They knew I was going to go do whatever I was going to do. Sure. So they were just kind of like, okay, well, be careful.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
You probably got good grades and stuff. Good enough.
Yeah.
They're not probably worried about you.
No.
You just go do this thing.
And I mean, I've of my two brothers, I was always the independent one who would go do whatever, and wasn't really leaning on the family very much.
Yeah.
And so it is.
The autonomy, the independence. And, for porno, hospitality videos, or acting, you have the perfect name.
Yeah.
It's really diverse because it could work for any of these things. You could be the naked spy guy in an adult film and yet still have your own line of barware.
I always liked it just in case I ever played Vegas. Whatever that means, that's the type of name that should be playing Vegas.
Yes.
Whatever capacity.
Johnny Two-Tone and fucking Nico Martini, double bill.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it is a brilliant... Is Nico short for anything?
Nicholas,
okay.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Greek, Italian, what kind of background is...
I mean, I'm half Mexican, basically. I'm half Mexican and half mutt. European. Yeah, European. That's a good way to put it. European. Yeah, totally. European. Half Mexican, half European.
It's not a bad blend.
Yeah, totally. No, man, my grandfather, or my great grandfather, came here on a covered wagon when and he wound up settling in Brady. He just stopped. He just stopped and was basically like, okay, there's a farm. I wonder if I can go do some work for them. And he walked up and the guy said, yep, sure. And so he just started farming.
Wow.
And
here we are.
Yeah. And
generations later.
Yeah, exactly.
The acting piece, given you seem like a creative guy, someone who likes to write and all of this, did it hit a point where you said, all right, I'm going to invest big. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to be a Hollywood actor.
In 2005, so towards the end of my career at Collin County Community College, I had realized that I was a much better director than I was an actor.
Yeah,
and so I started leaning heavy into directing, and I got recruited to be one of the first people to come out of the new TCU directing program.
Okay.
Got there. The program was total bullshit, so I left after one semester.
Uh-huh.
But that was from then on, everything that I was doing, it was directing. And so in 2005, I was selected as one of the top 50 young American directors and selected for the Lincoln Center Directors Lab.
Oh.
Which is basically they ship you up to Lincoln Center and they shove you in the basement of the Lincoln Center and they just start throwing Broadway directors at you and you're just like writing down, hoping that you absorb anything that is coming from this magical person in front of you. And it's a 2-week long program. It completely changed the way that I looked at everything. And it's sort of ironic because the way that I got in, my application was completely about you owe it to us. You owe it to the regional theater. There is more regional theater than there is theater in New York City. Mm-hmm. You owe it to regional theater to give these people better training. And so if I have the opportunity to come up there, I'm coming back to Texas. I'm going to be able to take everything that you've taught me and be able to better this regional community.
A moral duty.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And then I moved to New York 3 weeks later because I was like, well, if I'm ever going to move,
way too big.
Now I know 35 directors. I better do it now.
My network's looking pretty hot at this point.
Yeah.
Wow. So, with the intention of directing Broadway or directing off Broadway, whatever.
Yeah. No, I directed at a couple of off Broadway houses while I was up there. Did a little bit of stuff in Brooklyn. For the most part, I was I lived in New York for about a year, and with the exception of a handful of like tech theater gigs, like lighting and production managing, that kind of stuff, all of my money came from theater.
Really?
So living in New York. Yeah.
Because normally, it's not the case, right? I was going to say, oh, did you bar back for a second? But no, you were making a decent bit of money and doing that, which is great.
Which and at the end of it, I was kind of like, you know what? This is really... I really took a particular interest in producing. Yeah. I wanted to produce Shakespeare for whatever fucking reason. And I immediately went and researched all of like the high-toned Shakespeare Festival internships in the country and realized I was like 3 weeks late on applying, and so it just wasn't going to happen. But I knew the executive director of Shakespeare Dallas, and I called her up and I was like, hey, can I just come work for you this summer and just kind of follow you around while you're producing? And she's like, absolutely. Cool. So I moved back to Dallas, moved back in with my parents, and started working for Shakespeare Dallas. And then at the end of the summer, started working for Shakespeare Dallas. And then while that was happening, I wound up starting to date my now wife. And so...
Were you guys working together?
No.
Okay.
No. We met... She was the bridesmaid at a wedding that I was the date of. She was the maid of honor at a wedding of which I was the date of a bridesmaid. So that's how we met.
But this is good because this gives people hope. They always think it's a good place to be single is going to weddings. So you're showing that.
You just have to show up like with somebody and then ditch them as soon as you find someone more interesting.
See, it's a little tricky, but it does sound doable. For many people.
Absolutely. So like we started dating, and then Sandra came to me and she was like, "Hey, I have a program manager position. Can I just hire you?" And I was like, "Okay." I mean, this is kind of the point, right? This is what I was going for. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, sign me up. So I became the program manager of Shakespeare Dallas, and we started doing all of these. I'm in all these marketing meetings.
Yeah,
and every single one of them. Like, they just keep describing the same people. And finally, I eventually say, dude, every time we talk about the people you want to come see this show, you're describing people who use MySpace. Why aren't you using MySpace to talk to these people? And they're like, well, we don't know how to do that. I'm like, well, I don't either, but I'm going to figure that out. They're like, cool, because we don't know how to do that. So I started working on MySpace and putting together some sort of a marketing program, basically. And then it just sort of morphed into... I really like this. It felt the same as directing to me because
interesting.
Yeah, because I have if you do an online conversation campaign as a brand and you do it right, you have a particular audience you're trying to reach.
Sure.
You have a particular message you're trying to convey to them. You have these tools to do it, and you're trying to elicit these specific emotions out of them. It's the same thing as you're doing in the the theatrical sense.
I hadn't thought about it that way.
And so if you're doing it right. Yeah. And so it's for me, it's always, I mean, you just heard the background. It's always going to be about the story for me. And so it just really worked because I was kind of coming at it from everybody else who was in this field, and I mean, this was like the beginning. It started with MySpace, and everybody else who was in this field came into it from like marketing, and I came into it from theater.
Sure.
And so I had a different perspective on the way that these things operate. And then after Shakespeare Dallas, I was like, you know what, I think I know what I want to be when I grow up. And I went to the University of Texas at Dallas and got my master's in emerging media and communications.
Interesting. So right at the right time, too, where these things are starting to, I mean, truly emerging as a way to engage with people. Well, so what is Hypeworthy?
That's the digital marketing company that
that's what I thought kind of stemmed
that
from
I started. Yeah. It was funny. Like when I started grad school, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to start my own company.
Sure.
And I put together this business plan, and I was like going to seek investment and like this whole thing. And I had a friend of a friend set up a meeting for me to go talk to this guy who was a venture capitalist. And so we're sitting in the 19th hole of this country club, and I kind of go through the whole spiel, and he says, this is a great idea. Like, you're right. These type of companies are going to be everywhere within 5 years. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, you don't need money. You need clients. everything that you just like. I don't know what would you spend $50,000 on if I gave it to you?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm maybe a new computer. Like, that's a terrible answer.
Sure.
And he's like, no, man, you need clients. And then wound up about 6 months later, he introduced me to the CEO of a company called Hail Mary. They make raw, vegan, gluten-free snacks.
Okay.
And he was on their board, and they needed somebody to do their social, and they became my first like real client.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so,
how long were you really heavily in the social piece? I know you obviously it's a facet of all of your projects now, but how long was that kind of like the sole thing that you were working on?
It was up until about 2 years ago.
Really?
That it was that's what I did. And I mean still like that I still have clients, like, I still have the majority of the way. Like, I'm doing I'm teaching a seminar at BevCon in August, and it's about like why you're doing the internet wrong, basically.
Right. Okay.
And so like it's always going to be something that's there. I mean, I taught at UTD. I taught digital marketing design and self-branding through social media for about 4 years at UTD. So like this shit ain't going anywhere. It's going to be in everything I do from now on.
With the way that technology changes, mobile adaptive, different kinds of content layouts and things, what do you do to stay really, really in the mix and have your finger to the pulse of changing digital media?
I mean, honestly, it's just kind of paying attention. You follow the right people on Twitter and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, what if you ever want to deep dive into something, get a Twitter account and follow the right people. And they'll just start sending you information that you need to consume. And so, I kind of have my tech sector that are the geeks who are always on the forefront. So I kind of pay attention to them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for the most part, it's becoming, there's not a lot of, there's only so many ways that you can present content,
right.
And until somebody comes up with something smashingly new, like Snapchat's the same thing as Instagram. It's the same thing as Facebook. It's all the same,
right?
Like it's whatever. And again, for me, it's way more about the story than it's ever going to be about the vehicle in which you get it there, the tool in which you get it there.
Well, this kind of background, in theater and digital media and teaching and education. Not to say that it doesn't somewhat run through the hospitality industry, but it seems quite disparate. So at what point do these two worlds kind of collide? Because it seems like booze, to put it simply, has really punctuated these last few chapters of your career.
How did I get into booze?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was, I think, 8 years ago, maybe 9, either 8 or 9 years ago. So my now brother-in-law, Kevin Gray, who runs CocktailEnthusiast.com.
Right. Now, some of this stuff we've talked about, Mike, but that's not a bad place to start.
He runs CocktailEnthusiast.com, and he came to me, and because I'm his brother-in-law who has the social media company. So he comes to me, he's like, "Hey man, how do I make my blog more popular?" And I kind of take a look at it, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, the content's cool. Like, I don't know, try actually tweeting. Because you have this account, and the last time you tweeted was 7 months ago. Like, try tweeting. Put it on Facebook. Write more often. You're only writing once a month.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And he's like, okay, cool. But it also happened to be March, and I happened to be watching a lot of basketball. And I was like, dude, you should do a bracket. Like, all you want is hits.
Yeah.
Do a bracket. Do a cocktail bracket. And this is the best bartender in Dallas because you're a cocktail enthusiast and you say so.
Sure.
And everybody comes to your site and votes for the best bartender in Dallas, and then you get all these hits because people keep coming to your site to vote, and, you get what you want. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. I was like, well, if we do it, we should shoot some video and make it cool. Like, maybe show up to the bar, or they'll shoot the cocktail that they're making.
You get to put your directorial hat on.
Yeah, exactly,
again, right?
exactly. And he's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, you know what? I kind of like this idea. Let me think this through. And it ballooned into a full on TV pilot. That I went to this guy Adrian, who is now my business partner. I went to this dude Adrian because I knew that he had gear. I didn't know what he had, but I was like, he's shot small like indie projects before with friends of mine. I know he's got gear. And so I go and I'm like, hey, so this is the idea. This is what I'm thinking. Like, what kind of gear do you have? Are you interested in this? Is it? And he's like, yeah. He's like, no, I'm really interested in this. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, like, what do you have? And he's like, okay, first of all, I don't have any gear. But he's like, I've got like 3 light stands, and that's not going to be helpful. He's like, but I really like this idea. And so he decided to invest in the project, and it morphed into a full-on TV pilot. Wow. So we got my best friend from college, Michael Urie, who used to be on Ugly Betty. And at the time, he was on Ugly Betty. So like a legit TV star.
Yeah.
I told him about the project, and he was, and like without me asking, he was like, "Can I host it?" I'm like, good God, yes,
sure,
yes, TV star friend, please host my TV show. And so he came down and he hosted the thing. Our judges were Kevin Gray from Cocktail Enthusiast,
of course,
Jason Cosmas,
of course,
and Patricia Richards, who was she was the beverage director of The Win at the time, and so we shot this whole thing, and it was just this unbelievable magical day of just like making this whole thing cool. And basically like it was basically Chopped with Cocktails. It's not
that's
like,
what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. And so basically like the first round was everybody makes their signature cocktail. The second round is secret ingredients. And then the third round, the last 2 dudes that are left, I say dudes because there weren't any women in the show except for Patricia, which is something that I was like, dude,
what is going
on? Okay, I know these are the bartenders you want, but then give me a female judge.
Yeah,
let me at least put a female in a position of authority. And we're like, that works better. Let's do it that way. So, so the last 2 dudes, right, do like a 3-drink menu, and then we fill the room, and they have to bartend a party.
Actually, wow.
Yeah. And so like at the end of the thing, like this big reveal, like it's a party. Like the whole thing's been a party. And then you kind of go off to the side, you say kind of like, oh, how's it going? Like, what did you think about this? And there's like, I don't know, man. The drinks are good, but he can't handle a crowd at all. And just like that kind of thing. And so then you have a winner, and then you go do it in San Francisco, and then in San Diego, and Chicago. And like, that was the idea.
Same kind of way?
Yeah.
Or just take that same concept.
Well, what I wanted to do, like I wanted to straight up kind of, as much as I could, kind of model it after the NCAA tournament. Like I wanted to like have like, you're repping your city, right? And then like you've got regionals, and then like, okay, you're repping your region, and then there's the last one is just like the championship, or whatever. And so not an idea that's out there by any means, but it hadn't been done. And so we shot this thing, and we took it to Yuri's agent, and she was like, this is gorgeous. Yes, I'll absolutely rep this.
Yeah.
So she started setting up meetings. And we had a meeting we met with NBC, we met with ABC, we met with MTV, which seemed weird, Travel Channel, Spike, Food Network, Cooking Channel, and basically everybody said, and I don't know if this is LA, this is what I know of LA.
Yeah.
Basically everybody said, guys, it's so good. No, we're not going to buy it.
Did you ever get any kind of understanding of
my favorite one was what Spike told us.
What did they say?
Because we went in there and we're like, and they're like, yeah, guys, we just can't do it. It's just it's the booze thing. Like we can't do a show that's all about booze.
This is before Bar Rescue, right?
No.
The purveyors of Bar Rescue are telling you this.
And to which we say, well, we kind of saw this as a companion piece, to Bar Rescue. And they said, oh no, that's a renovation show.
Oh, rubbish, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, you want to believe these people are in fucking tune with stuff.
So basically, like, the experience was awesome. Did the whole thing, and we never sold the show. But while we were out in LA, Adrian and I were talking, and he was kind of like, why are we even doing this show? And I was like, well, because I kind of love cocktails now, and I want more people to have them. And he said, cool. How do we do that without a show? I said, stick a whole bunch of people in a room and only give them cocktails and don't let them order beer. And he's like, okay. Why?
That's one way to do it for sure.
He said, like, okay. Why'd they come to the room? And I was working as a program director for an indie rock station in Dallas at the time. And so like immediately I go, oh, you booked the right band. Like, I promise you, 4,500 people will show up if you book this band.
Sure.
That's what they draw. Yeah. So yeah, you will now have 4,500 people that you're not going to allow to buy beer.
Right.
And he's like, okay, so let's do it. Like, let's do a cocktail indie music festival. Done. And so we start working on this thing.
Yeah.
And we called in, I called a buddy of mine, Matt, who runs, he was running this festival series called Untapped. It was basically like indie music, indie beer. And it was going really well, really successful. And like I told him about the idea and we started kind of working on it. But the whole time I'm turning to Adrian going, how the hell are we going to serve cocktails to 7,000 people?
Right.
And he's like, well, I've got a draft system at my restaurant. I'm like, awesome. Is it mobile? Can we rip it out of your restaurant? Because we're not having it at your restaurant. He's like, no, but let me see what I can find. And then a couple days later, he came back and he was like, hey, so I found this thing. I've got this guy. He's going to do this to it. And we're going to, and we're going to be able to, it's going to be a mobile draft cocktail system. I'm like, okay, awesome, cool. So dude goes, give him the stuff, makes the thing. Now we have this prototype and we're like, this is really cool. We're going to cater everything.
Yeah.
And then we catered an event. And we're like, this is really, really cool. We're going to build these and they can cater everything. We're just going to build the machine. And so that is Bar Draught.
It's funny because it's just your career's been paved and forged with necessity. It's like, I don't have the tools I need. Well,
pivot, all of it.
And it's crazy because some people, or rather, this is the beauty of a career. As long as you aren't too rigid about like the path, you're gonna go on a fucking crazy journey. Yeah. So now we've got Hypeworthy for your digital media, which should support any product you may make or make for someone else.
Yep.
Then you've got Bar Draught, which will take a little bit of investment. Where are you with that at this point?
We are days away from getting our money.
Oh wow!
So it's about to be a business and not just a really expensive hobby, which is all it's been now. So it basically like this. We were talking about Hypeworthy, and it's been a couple years since I've kind of ramped everything down with Hypeworthy, basically because of Bar Draught. It was I kind of set everything up so that I had an employee who came to me and she was like, hey, I'm going to go be a teacher. I'm like, okay, dude, that's all. Like, she's like, I really want to, don't tell my mom. She really wanted to be a teacher and I knew that. And she was just like, it's time. I'm going to go. I'm like, awesome. Cool. And so I kind of looked at everything. I was like, okay, so I don't have to pay her. If I get rid of the office and I get rid of that one big ass pain in the ass client that she spent most of her time on, and I really don't like them either. Let me get rid of them, but it's still, okay, it's a wash. Okay, cool, awesome. Let me fire the bad client, not bad, let me fire
incompatible.
Let me fire the incompatible clients, and then, take it down to just something that I can be doing and to kind of scale everything down and still be making the same amount of money. And so that's basically what I did, kind of in preparation for Bar Draught.
Yeah.
And then I was playing laser tag with my brothers and passed out. And the ambulance was called.
You passed out playing laser tag?
I passed out playing laser tag.
When was this?
So this was 2 years ago. Actually it's right.
Almost
hell it might be. What is today? The 25th?
Yeah, something like that.
It might be today.
Yeah.
The 20th? Yeah. I think it might be the 25th.
Wow.
And they called the ambulance, like I passed out. It was funny because the game started, we were playing like a regular sort of laser tag game, and there was a whole bunch of kids, and it was fun, and we're like, doing. My first job was the assistant general manager of a laser tag arena. So like this is always been something that I love to do.
Yeah,
and so first game was like kind of normal, whatever, and then the second game, the birthday party left, so it wound up being 2-on-2, which became really physical, and we're like running and diving and like all sorts of stuff, and I just started getting really dizzy, and then I sat down. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna chill for a minute, and then the game ended. I was like, okay, all right, I got to get up. I'll go sit down outside. I got up, started walking, passed out, and so ambulance called. They ran an EKG on me. They're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. I'm like, well, I happen to have a general practitioner appointment on Tuesday. I'll just talk to him about it. Told him the whole story, and I was like, the only thing I can think of is, when I was a kid, I had aortic stenosis.
Okay.
And aortic stenosis is when one of the valves in your heart is little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. It didn't form correctly.
Right.
And I was like, but that went away when I was in high school. Like, I was told it went away. And he's like, okay, you're going to go see a cardiologist. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to the cardiologist, tell her the whole story. This is what happened. Passed out playing laser tag, blah, blah, blah. She's like, okay, you're going to go get an echocardiogram.
Yeah.
Go get the echocardiogram, come back. I assume she's going to be like, you need to drop 20 pounds and cut out the red meat. And like, that. I'm like, that's all I know from cardiologists. They tell you to eat less meat and lose weight. And she goes, but instead she says, so you're going to have open heart surgery sometime in the next 2 months. Let me know when it's convenient.
Wow.
Yep.
Didn't even ask.
Didn't even.
What if I want to die, Doc? I got my own prerogative here,
right, exactly.
Don't even make it a choice. Come on.
Yeah, and so my first question was, can I still go to Havana? Because we had a trip planned like the next week, and she's like, yes, but you can't take any stairs or any stairs that you go on. You have to walk like you're a 65-year-old.
Wow.
Do not raise your heart rate at all. But yeah, go, and then when you come back, we'll do this. And I was like, can I still smoke cigars? And she was like, actually, none of this, like, this was going to happen. None of this has anything to do with whatever you may or may not have smoked.
Right.
Whatever alcohol you consume.
Genetic.
Whatever weight you are at.
Right.
How much red meat you eat. Like, your heart did not form the right way. It's lasted this long, and basically it started callousing.
Oh, wow.
And like the valve started callousing, so it had gotten to the point that, like, when you put your thumb over a water hose and it starts going faster, that's what was happening.
Oh my god.
And so she was like, we have to do this because the blood it's moving at too high a velocity now. And so, like, we have to give you a new valve. So they gave me a new valve.
Valve replacement surgery? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
What is the valve made of that they put in there?
Some sort of metal.
It's a metal valve?
Yeah.
You're part robot now?
Yeah. I also take blood thinners every day. It really sucks. Yeah.
Is it the low dose aspirin?
Right.
No, I mean, I guess there's some benefit to it.
Yeah.
So you get all repaired.
Yeah.
You're more RoboCop.
And I had already kind of dialed everything down with Hypeworthy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, this is actually really good timing. I convinced Megan to, like, hey, can you stay on for like 3 more months? And then started a little bit later. And she's like, yeah, totally. She's like, I have to plan out stuff anyway. So she ran my company while I was getting really good at FIFA. And
how long was recovery ultimately?
I started feeling better about a month and a half later.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I was back to 100 3 months later.
Yeah.
So
and now does life actually feel now knowing that was a thing, like you go back and say, oh man, the Kevin Spacey thing.
Yeah, totally.
Did you realize there was a problem that whole time that you're like, oh, it was harder to get upstairs? It was there
were a couple of moments that like I looked back on, I was like, oh, that was totally that. And there was one, we were in Lisbon. And for whatever reason in Lisbon, they will call your name over the intercom way sooner than they will in the US.
Yeah.
And so, like, we're walking to the gate, and all of a sudden we hear our names on the intercom, and we're like, okay, fuck, run.
Yeah,
we gotta run. And we like sprinted like the equivalent of probably like third of a mile, half a mile. But by the time we got to the end of it, I was seeing stars, and I'm surprised they let me on the damn plane.
Wow.
Now in hindsight, that's exactly what happened in the laser tag arena.
Yeah.
And so, and then there was this other time that Michael Yuri was in town, and he called me up and he's like, hey, so I've got VIP tickets to Barry Manilow. Do you want to go? Like, yes, I'm a fan-alo.
Absolutely. All right. How does a Barry Manilow concert stimulate you enough to put you into that state?
We had floor seats. So when I went to go like get a beer, I walked up the equivalent of like 12 stories to get to because we're at the bottom of the arena. Right. And it's like, and everything is down below. And so by the time I took all of those stairs, like I had to go into the restroom, and I just like sat on a toilet because I thought I was about to pass out.
Wow.
And I just had to sit for a while. And now in hindsight, that was totally my heart.
So
totally
the post-op, life has been quite nice,
Yeah.
clear, you feel healthier, all that?
Yeah, I do.
Did it bring you closer to your wife? Given that mine would worry that I would die, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I think it sort of it changed the way that I feel about everybody. Just sort of it's short, man.
Yeah,
it's short, and the end can be very sudden. And so there's a lot of things I stopped doing things that I didn't find worth it.
Yeah,
and I stopped making efforts in places that I had, because even if I had gotten the result that I wanted, was it even worth it? All of the time? And it's just I value my time more.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, everything that I've done over the past couple of years has basically been about optimizing my time and optimizing my life to have all of the experiences that I'm wanting to get in.
Right.
And so I can't fucking wait to be the former owner of Bar Draught.
Yeah.
Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And so, but while I'm doing it, it's my focus.
Sure.
And,
kid number 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No kidding.
I mean, it feels like
oh my
they're
God.
born in that way and everything.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. So,
well, this story then takes this beautiful behind the scenes yet at the forefront. Kind of, you're directing this book.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of players. You've got the aesthetic, what kinds of things you want to share visually. You've taken us through a journey with Texas Cocktails, this new book of yours that you're touring around.
Yeah.
You've chronicled Texas Cocktails. What were some of the things that surprised you about this journey in terms of interviewing folks, finding the facts, building these cocktail recipes?
Yeah. Consistency. Texas is... There's a lot of really, really talented people, and it's far more consistent than you would think.
Yeah.
Some of the... we've got... We have legit cocktail programs in places like Midland or College Station, and they're real. They are real. They're the type of place that if you were an 18-year-old going to community college in Midland and you spent 2 years at the Blue Door as a bartender, you can move to Dallas and work anywhere you want to. You've had enough good training, and it's there's. This state is really, we're obviously really proud. We're really sort of arrogantly proud about everything, sure. But we're also pretty fucking humble. And it's a weird combination.
Yeah.
But it's very that to me, that is what being Texan is. And seeing that sort of lineage imparted on a cocktail scene has been really cool. It's been really cool. It's been really interesting.
Yeah,
I think the thing that we
talk about it.
Yeah. And I was talking to Cosmos, and he said, I think that Texas trains more drinkers than both of the coasts combined.
Sure. We have the acreage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so many different, no pun intended, flavors to the community.
Sure.
Austin community, as I'm sure you've seen, is slightly different or vastly different than Houston.
Absolutely.
It's vastly different from Dallas and so on and so forth. Waco, there's a great bar, coffee shop there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, dichotomy is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the back bar there's beautiful. I just randomly was downtown in Waco.
Nice.
Don't ask how necessarily, but hanging with my folks, I was like, let's get a coffee. And then that back
fabulous.
Beautiful cocktails, Irish coffee. I mean, really, really surprising and delightful to see these places sprout up in places you would have never suspected before. And
that, I mean, that's one of my favorite things that I discovered doing this, because I kept having when they asked me to write the book, I researched all of the classic cocktails that come from Texas. I found both of them. And then at that point, I'm like, so listen, this is going to be 100 bars and 100 bartenders, and we're going to do it that way.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And so I just kept envisioning this mythical Google map, which I haven't even made.
Yeah.
This mythical Google map of the book. Where are all of the places? And I just kept like saying to myself, it can't just be DFW, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. It can't be this. Like, I've got to find elsewhere. And so I just started looking. And, I mean, you can look at a menu and kind of say, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting flavor profile. And I'm really glad that, you're using artichoke liqueur.
Sure.
Because that's good. That's not what I expected from Texarkana. That's great.
I like it. I love those surprises too.
Yeah. And so it just kind of started there, and I just started looking for all of these random places, from El Paso to Amarillo to Texarkana to Laredo. Like, there's stuff happening everywhere in the state. It's so cool.
What was the process for you? So they're like, all right, you're going to do this. And you said, yes, I'm going to do this. Yeah. This is how we should do it. About how long did it take you all in?
I mean, I started working on it last summer. And so not long enough is the answer that I like to say, because I really wish I had a little bit more time. Sure. But their deadline was their deadline. Basically, it was an author for hire thing. This was a book that was going to be written, even if I had said no. So arrogantly, I said, well, if somebody's going to do it, it better be me, because I want this to be good. So, whatever. And then, part of me is also kind of thinking, like, dude, that's, like, I have a book.
Yeah. Dude,
that's, like,
kind of rad.
It's immortality in a way. Sure. There are people 200 years from now who are going to be referencing this silly little book that I did last year. And so, it's kind of like, I'll have like my grandkids. Will there still be a copy of old great grandpappy Nico's book that he wrote?
Well, and it'll live
back before the robots took over.
That's right. I mean, it started with a heart valve, and then it turned into full-blown Terminator shit. That's how it works. But you've got this book now. Mm-hmm. You've got this physical manifestation of this idea that you had, and all this research, and bringing this community together. Yeah. This interstitial community that's somewhat disconnected, but bringing it closer together. Having that book in your hand and sharing it with people, what has been the response thus far? There's
a lot of thank you for doing this. I'm so glad it exists. Yeah. Like there's been a lot of that. The thing that I really hope happens with this, now that it's here, is the idea of legacy. Yeah. And that if everybody in Texas puts ranch water on the menu like they put a margarita on the menu, ranch water will become a cocktail that is known across the world and known as this came from Texas. Yeah. And I love the idea of, and I don't know if they're in this book, but I love the idea of these are Texas cocktails that came from Texas that are now, we get to the point that they're callable. Yeah. God, I would love to be able to walk into a bar in Chicago and be like, hey man, can you make me the Brave? And for them to be like, ooh, fuck yeah, I can. Yeah. And then like,
it's on you, buddy, but we'll make this strong ass drink.
Yeah, but like, okay, so what if it was the Brave? Yeah. What if like you got to the point that 5 years from now you could walk into, a mid-range cocktail bar in Portland, Oregon, and call that, and they know what you're talking about. Like that's legacy. That's cool. In this community, in like this field, that's the legacy. And so like I think the one that'll come out of Texas easily is the ranch water. Yeah. And Coca-Cola buying Topo Chico really helps. Sure. So, but like it's such a simple, fantastic drink, and it's easily the one that when I introduce it to people and they make one, they're like, "Holy shit, that's because it's so simple and you can drink it all day long."
See, I like it because now you're just piquing the interest and titillating the listeners so that they'll buy the book to find out what this wonderful ranch water.
I'm not going to tell you what it is.
See, I love it. That's great. See, I got the book downstairs, so I'm just going to go look after we're done. Right. But it's great because Texas Cocktails is available on Amazon. It's available when anyone sees you. Yes. It's available at Costco, which you were talking about, it's
crazy. It's at every Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, dude.
And there's a lot of them. I didn't realize there were still a whole bunch of Barnes & Nobles.
Don't let You've Got Mail fool you. There's still a lot of Barnes & Noble, those big bookstores all over.
I had my aunt called me And she was like, "Hey, I went to go to Barnes and Noble to pick up a copy, and they were sold out, so I had to go to the other one." I'm like,
wow.
She's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Man, it's been lovely seeing some of my peers finally get to bring these writing dreams to fruition, bringing them to market. Like your book with Texas Cocktails, Emma's about mezcal. Like, this is such a lovely time to be alive.
It's cool.
It's so great. So I got a couple questions left for you.
Yeah.
You come into town quite a bit, and finally, after years, we finally made this thing happen.
Right.
Finally. No, which is great. Perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
I asked this question of everybody, and you are at any bar, doesn't matter where, right now. It could be a Texas bar to stay in theme if we want, but you're drinking a ranch water cocktail.
Okay.
And you can have a conversation and wax poetic with anyone living or deceased.
Yeah.
That's an actor. Who might you like to sit down and chat with?
Oh God, I mean the simplest answer is William Shakespeare.
Oh man.
I mean, good. Yeah. I want to know how. Like, so what did you write? Like, let's get down to it. Like, what exactly happened? Because there's a lot of people that think they know what happened, sorta.
Yeah.
But there's no proof that Shakespeare. I mean, there's some proof that, like, there are people that will present arguments that basically says, look, he didn't exist.
Right.
Like, he didn't exist.
Like a compendium of writers.
It was three other people, and this is what they worked together, and it was mostly Faust instead of, like, and like that kind of thing. And then you take a look at, like, some of his plays, and they're like, this sounds completely different than the one that was before it. And, just... Yeah, I would
solve this puzzle
Shakespeare.
For me, Bill.
Yeah, man, I would want to.
That's brilliant. I never thought about it. From investigative.
I wanted to name my son Maximus Shakespeare Martini, but I was shot down.
Man, well, it is a big name.
It is a big name.
It's a Maximus-sized name. Well, that's great. That's a great answer. I never thought about that piece about it. Did this even really happen?
Yeah, totally.
Another big facet, this is kind of the last question I've got for you, of your career has been education. There's been a TED Talk. You've taught at SAC, Bar Institutes, Portland and New York. And this is what we all do, I suppose, as we get older, is we teach, we mentor. How important as you get older and you achieve these things that maybe you never thought you would have before, but greater things, notching the belt up, if you will. How important is the education and giving back piece? How important is that for you?
I taught for 4 years at the University of Texas at Dallas, and then, like, subsequently I've had interns with Hypeworthy and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing when you've got, like, in fact, one of my old interns came to the launch party in Dallas, and at the end of it, he kind of comes up to me and Mark, who was working with me at the time, and he's like, guys, y'all changed the way that I look at everything.
Wow.
Like, you made such, like, I don't know if y'all realize what a big impact you made on me, but thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. And, like, dude, that means the world to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, if I'm able to be at the disposal of somebody and can help them move on in this industry, in whatever industry, like, I love doing that. I love doing it.
Yeah.
It's important. I mean, there's, from an educational standpoint, the spirits industry is very weird because there is you can't go to UT and major in spirits,
right,
or mixology or that sort of thing. And the way that knowledge is imparted in this industry is through apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And which makes it even more important that when we have an opportunity to present information like a seminar, you need to take advantage of it because there's not a lot of them.
Yeah.
And B, like, I mean, when you think about it, if you get a degree from UT, like, how many seminars have you just heard? Your entire past 4 years was all seminars.
Absolutely.
Or you went to Tales and you went to 3 things and now you feel like you're a badass.
Right.
That was a day in the life of a liberal arts degree obtaining student.
Yeah.
That's a day. It's one day.
Right.
And you set your
you're an
whole
expert now.
you set your whole summer around these. Oh, I'm gonna go learn. Cool. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
And it's whenever you've got the opportunity to present different ways for people to consume information in an educational manner, you got to take it. And so, I mean, that's the reason that I keep saying yes to all of these seminars and all of these events, just because it is important. And there are people that are only coming to this, and this is the only continuing education that they're going to get outside of their own bar. And obviously in this field, that's the most important part. However, you still need information that's coming from outside of that little room. Otherwise, you're only going to know what works in that little room. And as soon as you leave that little room, it's not going to work like the way that you thought it did.
Right.
So
no,
did that answer? I have no idea.
No, it certainly did. You have to be a lifelong student to be an educator.
I am a massive, massive believer in education. Yeah. And I mean, it's if nothing else, you having a bachelor's degree shows me that you committed, and you were able to. I mean, most of the people who stop doing college, it's because honestly, they effed up a couple of nights and then the next morning didn't make it to a test and then decided, I'm just going to drop that class, and then they realized, well, hell, I'm only taking 6 hours anyway.
Right.
Let me just go back to work, and then they just never went back into school. And it comes down to like these fleeting little moments that the ones who get the degrees, they were able to make the right decision in those moments,
or
and
just
then they
work through it.
Yeah, or just work through it. Yeah. Absolutely. And they were able to persevere through 4 years of consuming information, and that being the only thing that they were doing.
It's
a big deal.
Thing.
Yeah,
because you're saying my ego is going to go to the side here, and I'm just going to listen.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
People can't do that.
Absolutely.
No, I think it's important. I do feel in the same way that education is it's a pillar of success and progress, but formal education as well to some extent. Mm-hmm. And there's something I would like to talk about off the mic, but offering what is ultimately accredited, embedded modules of learning for people in this industry. Yeah, that is a great opportunity.
I completely agree. I mean, it's the bar program is amazing. It's a starting point. It's genuinely a starting point.
Absolutely correct.
And if you think that's the end all be all, you've never been to college.
That's right.
I mean, frankly,
taking classes you don't want to take, right, but you have to.
Right.
Business, math.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there should be a way that, and I think that there will be with the growth of this industry. I mean, there's already colleges that are throwing more of an emphasis on it. They're not doing it right, but they're throwing more of an emphasis on it. But it's in the same way that you have to take a history of the Civil War class your junior year. Yeah. You should be taking a class on Pisco. Yeah. And learning everything in the world about Pisco. I don't care if you end up working at a Pisco bar. I'm not a historian.
Yeah.
But the class was awesome, and it changes the way that you think about stuff.
Sure.
That's the fucking point. It's not like the specific information. It's teaching you how to learn.
Right. Whittling you down to nothing to be rebuilt. I mean, this is a very common thread, like in the music industry, in the film industry. We know this.
Yeah.
Well, so I've got two things to thank you for. That you've been tremendously supportive. One, introducing me to Pam Wisnitzer has been a life-changing moment for me.
I love Pam.
Brilliant woman, strong woman, and I love keeping in touch with her. I learned so much. And secondly, the amazing nod to the show in Texas Cocktails, the show to V. I mean,
dude, this is important,
amazing, dude.
What you're doing is important. It is, man. You're documenting all of this stuff, like in the same way that this is a document. Everything that you're doing is a document, and at no point, and like we started talking about, at some point, Bobby Hugel is going to be reduced down to the recipe for the brave.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. But what if we have a podcast that actually lets you know how they sound and what they felt and what they thought about things?
Fly on the wall.
It's like, dude, it's important. It's absolutely important. I thank you for doing it.
Yeah, dude, it's been a pleasure.
it has been very life-changing for me, and it's introduced me to some of the most brilliant minds in this industry, hospitality, non-hospitality industries alike.
Yeah.
And really helped me create some lifelong friendships too. So I fully support this book, and I think it's a great intro for people to just dive into the minutia, but also the topical piece about the Texas cocktail culture. And it's not expensive.
No.
And it's accessible.
It's totally accessible.
It's finally we made this happen, not a second too soon. And, have a safe drive back up to Dallas. And we'll see you soon. And I would love to talk more about education and how that is such a pillar of this community. Nico, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Talk soon.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. What do you guys think of Mr. Nico Martini, a.k.a. Mr. Martini? Sounds like a Bond villain and or a Bond friend. It's kind of hard to say. His new book, Texas Cocktails, chronicles the creativity, the production, and this great zeitgeist of spirits production and imbibing in Texas. Lots of amazing things going on. And again, thank you so much, Nico, for including a shout out to Show de V. I'm trying to chronicle. You're trying to chronicle. We're both doing our best to capture this amazing work that's going on here. But the work comes at a cost sometimes. Our personal health, our mental health. And Nico kind of details some of this stuff and how things got turned around after a very, very deep heart scare. It's holiday season. Texas Cocktails might make the perfect book for people looking to make cocktails, learn more about mixology, bartending, and the overall state of spirits in Texas. It's worth picking up. I'll include an Amazon link in the show, URL, etc., etc. So thanks, everybody, for listening to Show de V with Mike G. No matter how astounded you are by the sherryness bomb that is Brujeria from Balcones. Dude, this is 62%. This thing is massive. Or if you're thinking, I gotta watch Die Hard, they got a 4K version yet? Please keep thinking.